While the big and popular Terraria mods can be quite silly and fun.
Oh, here's the thing! Here's the thing! Uh-oh.
Oh shoot.
Look at the Japanese characters!
Recently I found myself drawn to smaller mods that only add a few new items or enemies. With small mods like these, you're able to focus more time on polishing the content you already have, and they make for a refreshing modded experience. Most of the time.
Joe mod.
Why is the hitbox so big? I'll be going over 5 smaller Terraria mods in this video that I found pretty interesting for one reason or another, all of which will be linked in the description. Let's start with Gem Swords, a mod adding 6 new pre-hard mode swords themed around the gems in the game that are used to craft them. First is the Amethyst Blade, crafted with 15 copper bars, 4 amethyst, 15 silt, and 5 torches. This one is the simplest sword here, which makes sense considering the point and progression you craft it. It deals 15 damage and sets enemies on fire. It also shoots out sparks of fire that pierce through a single enemy, just like the Wand of Sparking. I do like that the sword requires copper bars to craft though, because there's really no way I'll be using that copper for anything else. I mean, I guess I could go out of my way to craft copper armor if I was a masochist. It's also really cheap for the amount of damage it does. Next is the Topaz Blade, crafted with 15 tin bars, 4 topaz, and 2 stingers. It inflicts poison onto enemies and creates a poisonous gas cloud on hit. This cloud will quickly fade away, dealing a moderate amount of damage to enemies that come into contact with it. That's actually a lot of DPS. After that is the Emerald Longsword, crafted with 15 tungsten bars, 4 emeralds, 4 jungle spores, a vine, and a moonglow. It deals 22 damage and marks enemies it hits. After enough time, or whenever the player right-clicks, 5 thorn beams will shoot out of the marked enemy, dealing continuous damage to anything caught within the thorns. Only one enemy can be marked at a time. It's also imbued with the Dryad's power, which just means it gives the Dryad's blessing status effect. This grants 8 defense, increases health regen, and makes attackers take damage when they hurt you. Okay, I'm noticing the swords in this mod are a bit overtuned. It's fine, at least they're fun, but I've got to point out these faults when I see them. The Sapphire Longsword is crafted with 15 silver bars, 4 sapphires, 15 snow blocks, 10 ice blocks, and a shiver thorn. It inflicts frostburn on hit and will create a falling icicle projectile after every 3 hits. This projectile does around 2 times your damage, but it falls directly from above, making it easy for it to miss your target. Next is the Ruby Greatsword, crafted with 15 gold bars, 4 rubies, 15 sandstone blocks, and 4 sturdy fossils. Hitting enemies will charge the sword up to 2 times. Right-clicking will then release one of these charges as a red slash, dealing significant damage, piercing through enemies, and giving the player 1 second of high health regeneration. Finally for this mod, we have the Diamond Greatsword. It's crafted with 15 platinum bars, 4 diamonds, and either 5 shadow scales for corruption worlds, or 5 tissue samples for crimson worlds. It deals 36 damage and can be charged up to 3 times by hitting enemies. The more charges you have, the more damage the sword deals. With any amount of charges, you can right-click to release a row of icicles equal to the amount of charges you had stored. These icicles fall from above onto enemies in front of you, but move to the point that they fall from starting at your character, meaning they can actually hit things as they travel upwards. Additionally, the icicles hone towards enemies. The last thing this sword has is that it gives you the shine buff while held, the same one given by shine potions. While that's pretty useful and a unique utility, the Ruby Greatsword's slash attack proves it to be far superior in terms of survivability and DPS. And that was the Gem Swords mod. It has some fun ideas, even though the balance is a little all over the place. Anyway, this is completely unrelated, but I just need to talk about one Terraria feature I simply cannot stand, and that would be drills. They're so loud, and they really don't feel like that much of a benefit over pickaxes. Especially when you can just use an ancient chisel to increase your mining speed. Honestly, if the sound effect was just quieter, maybe it wouldn't be that big of a deal, but I swear, if I have to hear this stupid sound over and over while playing through hard mode again, I'm gonna lose it. Anyway, Drill Expansion is a mod adding 15 new drills. It's pretty self-explanatory, and most of these drills are for pre-hard mode, since there's already a ton of drills in the game. This makes a drill for every pre-hard mode ore. They're not any better than pickaxes in terms of mining power, they're just slightly faster and more annoying. They even have the exact same recipes as their pickaxe counterparts. Some notable drills include the Fossil Drill, Spectre Drill, and finally the Zenith Drill. Because of course there's a Zenith related item in a drill expansion mod, you simply cannot escape the brain rot. But hey, if these drills aren't good enough for you, maybe you should reforge them. That's where Reforged comes in, which is a mod reworking how reforging works in Terraria. It transforms reforges from pure gambling to a well-executed QuickTime event. If you get a rare positive prefix, a special sound effect will even play. To play the minigame, you simply have to click the button whenever the bar goes over one of these squares. You win if you press the button within all the squares, and lose if you miss any one of them. There's also a rare chance that you'll get a very slim square with a star over it in your minigame. Hitting the Reforge button during the small window that the bar is under this bonus square seems to just win the minigame early, with no other apparent effects. Winning the minigame makes the next Reforge free as long as you don't leave the menu. Additionally, there's this new permanent consumable item you can get from the Goblin Tinkerer that allows you to craft items with better forges. The cool thing about this is that crafting items this way requires you to complete a completely unique minigame depending on the crafting station used. All you have to do is right-click when crafting an item. Anvils will require you to spam click as fast as possible to fill the bar in a short amount of time, and workbenches have you hold down the mouse button until the bar is hovering over a square in which you have to quickly let go. Overall, this mod is very fun, and it turns reforges from a money pit that you're forced to gamble with to an actually engaging and interesting mechanic. Wait, what? Oh, it's a sign. It says, please subscribe and like and leave a comment with a mod you'd like to see me cover in a future video. And it also seems to read that More Signs is a mod that adds dozens upon dozens of new signs for every single furniture set. And then I'm an idiot, loser, stupid pink cat, stupid. Okay, I don't know what's up with that last bit, but More Signs is a pretty cool mod that I wanted to throw into this video, even though it's not adding new weapons or some super cool mechanic. I love small cosmetic mods like this, and I want there to be more of them. The sprites here are super cool, and I love all the tiny details. The last mod that I found for this video is called MoreWhipClassic, and it's another mod which expands upon an already existing progression in the base game. I've already talked about 2 mods like this during the video, but I wanted to include this one because I really appreciate the execution of its sprites and ideas. There are 14 new whips in this mod, found all throughout vanilla progression. The first of which is the Rope Whip, crafted with just 12 rope and 3 wood at a workbench. It deals 9 damage and will likely be your very first whip in a playthrough with this mod enabled. It's very weak and very short ranged, but at least it's something. You'll probably not have a summon to use along with this whip this early into playthrough though, so don't go crafting this over something more important. Next is Mycelium Light, a whip that deals 15 damage that is crafted with 60 glowing mushrooms and 4 mushroom grass seeds. It's just a standard whip, except it's swagged up with cool blue sparkles. After that are 2 whips which behave identically, being Tendon and Biter. These 2 are both very standard, dealing 23 damage and being crafted with either 12 vertebrae and 8 tissue samples, or 12 rotten chunks and 8 shadow scales respectively. Dark Whip is where things start to get fancy. It's an upgrade to the Spinal Tap, being crafted with it and a Dark Lance. It deals 30 damage and inflicts enemies that it hits with the Shadow Flame debuff, dealing 15 damage per second. This is the last pre-hard mode whip, and from this point onward, most whips will have a special secondary effect. Our first hard mode whip is the Jump Rope, obtained with a 10% chance from clowns. It has a very short range and actually deals less damage than the Dark Whip, clocking it at 23, but attacks super fast. Next is Gossamer, a whip which deals 32 damage and is crafted with 18 spider fangs. Hitting enemies with the whip inflicts the Acid Venom debuff, dealing 30 damage per second. After that is the Black Flag, a whip which is a 10% chance to drop by the Flying Dutchman boss that appears during pirate invasions. It deals 32 damage just like the Gossamer, but grants an attack speed buff when hitting enemies, and gives enemies a chance to drop extra coins on death. Next is Crystal Light, a whip dealing 36 damage that is crafted with 30 crystals and 6 souls of light. Hitting an enemy has a chance to summon 3 bouncy balls, which bounce towards your target and deal around half of your damage. Chlorophyte Whip is crafted with 16 chlorophyte bars and deals 64 damage. Hitting an enemy with the whip will give you an attack speed buff, and has a chance to spawn these green gas clouds which will last around 3 seconds. After that is Sandshine, dropped with a 10% chance by paladins in the post-Plantera dungeon. It deals 82 damage and has no special secondary effect, but does give you an attack speed buff while consecutively hitting enemies. The next whip has a 5% chance to be dropped by Everscream, and is aptly named the Christmas Tree Whip. It has a chance to summon 1 to 3 floating Christmas ornaments that float towards your target and hurt enemies. This thing does around 300 damage per second, but can deal quite a bit more depending depending on your luck with the ornaments. After that is the Tesla Whip, a 10% chance drop from the Martian Walkers during the Martian Madness event. It deals 125 damage and shoots lasers in random directions from enemies that you hit. If you don't end up killing the enemy with your swing, the lasers will just immediately hit that enemy for extra damage. This whip is really enjoyable, but it's dropped during the Martian Madness event, which immediately knocks it down by at least 10 billion points on the fun scale for me. The final whip in the mod is the Stardust Whip, obtained with 18 Stardust fragments. It deals a whopping 200 damage and causes these shooting stars to fall on your enemies when you hit them, which deal massive amounts of damage. This becomes by far the best whip in the game, outmatching even the Kaleidoscope, which I'm very okay with. You can call me garbage at the game and say it's a skill issue, but I simply don't have the patience to fight Empress of Light during the day. I mean, what do you expect out of me? I'm just a little thingy, I can't do all that. Anyway, that was every mod I have for this video. They're all linked in the description, so check them out if you haven't played with them before, and let me know your favorite mod here in the comments. Now, if you'll excuse me, I have to get back to my epic Calamity playthrough.
Although the various planter boxes have different seed names and appearances, the differences are purely cosmetic. Any herb seed can grow in any planter box. What?
You're really betrayed about that.
Yeah! What? Maya!
What?
I've been doing this for 9 years! What the fuck?